So that brings us to number 6 today, which is there must be follow-up. Holy moly. I've heard the fortune is in the follow-up. What do you think about that?
Oh, you're talking to the guy here. I'm huge on follow up, and Dan Kennedy's original partner, Pete Lillo, is constantly touting me as the follow up guy because he's seen in a lot of cases. I have clients that I've brought to the Elite Gold Crown Group, and it took 15 follow ups to get them there.
Yeah.
Okay, and years ago, Craig, when we started, it was a three-step mailing, right? So basically, the mailing and two follow-ups. Today, that's nowhere near enough. It's just not. I'm finding a minimum of 12 and as many as 15 across multimedia when it comes to following up.
Yeah, I remember one. I mean, let's talk about like a sequential campaign. Dan's magnetic marketing kit teaches that, and he says he based that on learning it from the collection agencies mailings, and so he has the what's the name of that mailing that he does, the famous restaurant
Oh yeah, Giorgio letters.
Giorgio. I was going to say Mario, but same Giorgio letters. But excellent examples of how to follow up until and saying, hey, I sent you this letter a week ago, did you get it? By the way, here's the offer again. Hey, I've sent you 2 letters, here they are attached to this letter. Let me sum it up again. And then the last one, the 4th one, was your final offer, right? This is the final notice. But I remember when I went to the super conference, I don't know if it's the super conference, I think, when Gene Simmons was out there, and they were competing for Marketer of the Year, and Chris Hearn, who we know in that world, had 56 steps in his campaign, 56 steps, and he was adding to it all the time.
Oh
And
yeah,
so, what does that mean? That means that you market until they take action or they say stop mailing me, right? And so many people just do 1 or 2 things. Most do 1, but at second best is they do 1 more, and that's not enough in this day and age, especially with so much media coming at you, right? It's like, hey, I got this thing in the mail, I'm going to put it down, I intend to look at it again, I intend to act on it, but I'm going to put it down. And then they forget about it because they're bombarded with so much other media, right?
right. And not only that, life happens.
Right.
And a lot of them mean to do it, and then boom, something happens in their life, in their family's lives, where they get distracted for a day, a few days, a week. We know how that can be, and uh, those things just happen. And I'll share with you a kind of a little bit of an extreme follow up. I had a client out in Washington State a few years ago. We did a campaign for him, and we started it off with a mailing, and then we followed up by a multimedia. Craig, that worked so well that we continued to follow up for over 6 months.
Yeah.
And every time we would send a follow up, he would get business out of it. Every time. Sometimes it was more than others, but it was more, his return on investment every time we did it was 20, 30 to 1.
Right.
And so at one point he said to me, well, when are we going to stop doing this? And I said, when we stop getting results.
Right. I forget who said it. It might have been Jay Abraham or something, but he said life is a moving parade. And that means that life is happening, like you just said, right? Life is happening. And maybe they need it, but they don't need it right now as much as they might need it 6 months or a year from now. So when Chris Hearn's doing 56 mailings, that's probably 1 a week, right? That's a year.
Yeah.
I mean, I did
Yeah.
that when I started up our local chapter and I started a mastermind group. I mailed to these people who were Dan Kennedy students who were not responding. And I'm like, what's going on? But I kept on sending them the newsletter, and inside the newsletter was an offer. And it only took, the first mastermind wasn't good for them. The second one I did focused on info marketing. That like, holy crap, that's exactly what they were looking for, because they didn't know who was in the first group, which was general business members, small business owners. But the info marketing group was something that they really looked for and they wanted. And so I marketed until I found an offer, or they saw an offer that was right for them. So never give up
Yep.
on your customers just because they haven't taken action. If they're ideally suit for you in you know who your perfect customer is. Keep mailing until, right?
Yeah, and Craig, it goes back to that old saying, and maybe this will stick with some people listening. No doesn't necessarily mean no.
Right.
It just means not right now.
Right.
And if you keep that in mind, it makes it easier to follow up. Like you were just saying, sometimes it's a timing issue.
Right.
You got to
Right.
be there at the right time.
Amen. Amen.